This podcast is sponsored by SeedTag, who help you win your audience by tapping into their interests, emotions, and intentions. Welcome to the Blooming North podcast. I'm Lisa, Coach to the North, and I am excited, which makes a change from me being annoyed, because normally I'm pretty annoyed in most podcasts. But the podcast is young. There is time yet for me to be annoyed, and I feel like there is time for anger in this podcast. It will probably come because I am joined by two very fabulous guests who back in October were up in Manchester on a panel talk called Still Rising, all about women in media and their midlife revolution. It was a joint event from Bloom and from the Women in Programmatic Network. How did you both find it before I introduce you both?
Oh, just amazing. It was fabulous to be a part of it.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was a really uplifting experience being in a room with that many powerful women trying to drive change.
Yeah, honestly, when I'm in rooms like that, I just look around and I'm like, yeah, I wish I could just put you in my pocket and take you home, because it's just so empowering. There's just something about it that makes you want to get a flag and march down the street. I love it. But it had such a huge response that we wanted to get you back to have a bit more of a chat, because it's really important subject matter that you spoke about there, midlife women. So I just want to welcome, first of all, you, Anna Sampson, to the podcast. You are founder of Anna Sampson Consulting and passionate about kind of people first digital experience in leadership. Welcome to the pod, Anna.
Brilliant. Thanks for having me.
Hopefully I've got you. You all do so much good stuff, so correct me if I'm not kind of introducing you right. But I've also then got Jacquie Duckworth, Jacquie?
Yes.
Yeah, Jacquie Duckworth, founder of Visible Star, and you're on an absolute mission to release the power of midlife women. Welcome to the pod.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, the panel event that we attended, there was kind of some really massive moments in there, and I took out a few kind of notes on the day. One woman said in the audience, when you kind of ask questions, she was like, I feel like you've just told my story. I feel like I've just been seen. So I kind of want to unpack that today because I think a lot of women in midlife are going to feel seen. So let's pick up on the conversation again. Anna, it was kind of started with some of the work you did around your IPA report about time for some kind of like new age thinking, highlighting the age implications of women in tech. Will you give us a quick recap of that report, please?
Well, I really believe in evidence-based decision-making, and I think this is an important topic, but what I was hoping to bring to bear on it was some stats and some evidence, some hard evidence, but also stories of that lived experience. So I spoke to women and men across the industry, young and old, to understand their experience of bias, if they'd experienced it, and leaders in their organisations, what were they doing about it? And I think I uncovered some really poignant stories in the process of doing that. Women who are talking about hiding their age on their CVs, horrific interview experiences where it's clear that bias is, structural and conscious. Interlocking experiences for women of colour where they are bumping into ageism on top of already feeling like they're being held back. So lived experience was really important to me in terms of being able to bring colour to this, because I think that makes people sit up and pay attention and see themselves in this and feel seen.
Yeah.
Like you say.
I think as we go through this podcast, loads of people will relate, because I think the crux of it basically is we haven't got enough people over the age, what age, what are we saying, 45, 50, over that age range in any sector really. This is across all sectors, but particularly in like the media and tech sectors, they all just seem to disappear.
Yeah, that's exactly the case. So the key stat in the report was that 8% stat, which comes from the IPA, which is only 8% of our industry are over 51.
Yeah.
And that's, compared to the overall workforce, it's 33. And compared to the communications information industry, it's 12. So we're really behind on that. It's a massive problem in our industry. And I think some of that stems from the fact that culturally, we are at the sort of bleeding edge of kind of innovation and tech, and we tend to make this assumption that that's young people's game. And like you said, where do the old people go? They do sort of disappear when you hit 40, 50 and you look around, there's no one like you anymore. So it is a problem.
Yeah, But, you know, they've also got mortgages and kids and lives and things. So, you know, where's the work? Where's the work? Where are they? Where are they? We'll unpack that today. Jacquie, you have lived experience of this, don't you, of women facing ageism?
I definitely do. So my whole career was in the media owner side, working in magazines, national press and such. And there's no doubt that every time there was a round of redundancies, it was evidential that it was midlife women who were always at the front of the queue. And particularly, I think, poignantly for me, being in a magazine industry that targeted, it was female brands read by female audience, and yet it was the females that were just being kicked out the door. And so I saw that time and time again. And you can, as you quite rightly pointed out, if you look now, there's just nobody there. And I guess the really important bit from where we are perceived in society is that we haven't earned enough, we haven't saved enough. You're talking about mortgages and all your financial commitments. We haven't, we're going to live to a ripe old age. And if we're being exited from business at the age of 45, then we've got 20 years left in the tank. And that just does mean that we're going to retire in poverty, and we need to retire in dignity. And that's what my business is all about, trying to make that change.
I love that. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but there was a statement I wrote down out of the panel event, which was, I don't know who said it might have been you that said, a change in redundancy can be the full stop in a career. And it's frightening that, because, you know, I'm not in my 50s, but I'm in my 40s and I run my own company. And it made me think, I can't fall back on a job. Who's going to hire me now? I've got to make my business work because I can't go back into work. And it really does, you know, in that panel event, I think it was eye-opening for women, especially in that age, 30 years, 20 years age brackets, where they were like, oh no, I have to really consider my security going forward, because you are the first out. Why is that? Why are we the first out? Let's go through some of these reasons why women are out.
I mean, that was one of the key questions that the IPA asked me to tackle, you know, where is the line between bias and commercial realities? And I shared some stats on stage, which was around open vacancy rates in our industry. And the honest truth is, as you progress, there are less roles. You know, our organisations are pyramid shaped. So, you know, we have to face the reality that, you know, as you get to a senior level, there aren't as many opportunities. But I think we're not thinking creatively enough about how we can hold on to some of that talent. So yes, like Jacquie said, midlife women are the first to lose out when it comes to redundancy. But businesses aren't thinking about how potentially, you know, maybe commercially they have to shed some of those more expensive staff. But how can they hold on to that talent in contractual ways that are different, or part-time ways, so that, you know, you've got some degree of stability, and then you could maybe have some kind of side hustle, pivot career and transition into something different. Because I think there's a real value in holding on to that level of experience from coaching younger people in the organisation, and also, you know, around AI, which you might assume isn't something that naturally would sit with a midlife woman, but we're all training in that area, and it involves critical thinking and challenging some of the things that we want to do as businesses, and that comes from experience.
Yeah.
So I think absolutely we can operate in that space.
Yeah.
I think the bottom line is that there just has to be an attitude shift and change towards that. And I think that, you know, as you've mentioned, you know, people in senior positions, higher salary, that seems to be such short-termism in terms of a solution, in terms of cost efficiency and cost savings. And if you look, there was a stat in the McKinsey report that says that businesses that have midlife women in executive positions are commercially more successful than the ones that don't. So it really is a short-sighted viewpoint to think that getting rid of experienced talent because they're costly is of benefit to the greater good of the business, because it isn't.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And what I did notice, and I reflected on this when I left, that in that panel talk, we're talking people in our industry. So we're talking big corporate, most of them corporate kind of big players. But then I also thought about my mum, who was made redundant. Well, the business it was a small independent business she worked for. They closed down, and she was like 49, 50. She was like, what do I do now? Like, who's going to hire me? And I'm like, Mum, like everyone, because it's you're going to walk straight in as the package of, I can do the job, no problem. You don't have to train me. I'm good to go. She did luckily get a job, but she was overlooked on so many applications. So is it that in this kind of recruitment area we have to be really conscious?
Definitely. I think that's a key pinch point is recruitment, because what happens is, and obviously I spoke to midlife women who this had happened to, you know, the reason why they hide their age on their CV is because they don't even get it through the door. And then obviously when they do get through the door, visibly you can tell that they're older, and then they're usually being interviewed by someone younger, because as an industry we promote early. And there's an uncomfortableness with the idea of, I'm going to be line managing someone older than me, because we assume... you know, that linear progression means as you get older, you get more seniority. But because there's not enough room at the top for everyone to progress in a linear way, that means that when you fall out of the industry, it's very hard to get back in. And I think we need a reframe, because the truth is we can't all be C-suite. And frankly, not all of us want to. We need to think about progression as breadth and cross-functional working, because you can grow in your career in a non-linear way. And that's kind of how I've perceive my own career. And I think when you think about it in those terms, of course you can bring midlife women in, and you can add richness to your organisation in terms of diversity of thinking. Yeah. So it's a reframe, and that involves training people who are interviewing to think like that, and to not ask the kind of questions that are biased and are going to prevent people from joining organisations.
I think just to pick up on that, there's a real... I've done workshops with WPP who sponsored our programme on gendered ageism, and it is that kind of elephant in the room that when a 28-year-old interviewer is interviewing midlife woman, you know, there's just panic written on both sides of the fence, actually, from the midlife woman's perspective as well as the woman who potentially be their line manager and 20 years younger. But we've got to actually break that down and understand what are the issues. You know, what do you are you threatened that a midlife woman is going to want your job in 6 weeks' time? So therefore, you know, is that something that we can kind of unpick and say, you know, no. I mean, what the reality is that sadly, midlife women would be so grateful to be given the opportunity to kickstart their second careers, whereas the reality is it should just be intergenerational or inter-age, as one of the panel members said, that I think is the way forward, because the richness that both parties bring is of value to the business and each other.
It's so interesting. I worked in talent development in the HR team. It took me about 6 months to get into my head that early careers didn't mean young people. So, because when we talk about early career, because we would hire in people into our tech team and things that were, you know, career changers. So they could be like 43 and go, right, I'm just going to now go into tech. I'm going to be a coder. And off they go. Coder. Listen to me, I'm so out of touch with my tech. Is that a job? I don't know. So they go in and they're like, I'm going to do it. And they'd be 45 and I'm like, oh, right, yeah. Because again, I would just expect a bunch of apprentices to walk through my door for any training. And I'm like, oh, it's different. Oh, yeah, it's early careers. It's not early. It is a bias that is set, isn't it? That we think anyone coming into business or anyone, you know, bringing new ideas have got to be young. How do we challenge that bias then? What are we doing about it?
Well, I mean, certainly what we do on our returners programme is that we talk closely with the hiring talent team to make sure that they do understand that as Anna pointed out, it isn't unconscious, it is a right bias in your face. And so just to kind of, you know, talk about the kind of scenarios that really are problematic in their own mind's eye, so that they can actually get it out there and actually deal with it. So that when an interview does take place, and they see a midlife woman at the end of that television camera on their laptop, they're just not freaked out by it. Yeah. But it is about talking it through as opposed to just ignoring it, because what happens, and I think the other thing that I want to pick up on that Anna touched on, is that with the recruitment process, everything is submitted online now, and the algorithms will spit out a midlife woman in a nanosecond. Yeah. So there is a lot of, you know, there's unconscious bias in the machines before we even get to the humanity bit of it.
Yeah, your stat was something like, wasn't it 29%? So a young white man is 29% more likely to get a job than say like a black British woman midlife. Yeah. Like 30% better chance is just insane. Here we go. This is Lisa getting angry on a podcast because you talk about it, Jacquie. You say the narrative needs to change from women fighting for a place.
Yeah.
Because why does everything we have to do in life have to be a fight?
Well, I call it my the Oliver Twist analogy. That we are going kind of cap in hand and begging bowl, saying, please, sir, give us a job, sir. Be kind to us, sir. Be nice, because we're nice people. And we've got to flip that narrative and just say, on the assertive and the front foot, that you need us, and these are the reasons why you need us. So we do have to change that dynamic. The long and short of it is that I want my business to be made redundant because I don't want it to be a novelty to think, let's employ a midlife woman in our organisation. We should just be one of the norm. And demographically, as I'm sure Anna's aware, that the demographic of 50 plus adults is burgeoning and getting bigger, and the demographic of people approaching 19 is getting smaller. So your pipeline is shrinking. So you need to pivot and look as an employer to the workforce where the talent pool is vast and you get more choice and therefore value for money in terms of the experience that they can bring.
Absolutely. In fact, you're making me think again now, like, can women win in anything? Because there was a friend I was talking to recently at the World of Learning event, and she's currently looking for a job in talent development, which is traditionally a supportive role. So therefore, man or woman, you're going to bring those supportive, kind, helpful types of strengths and traits. And they said to her in the interview, "Oh, we just think you're a bit too nice." And she said, "Well, you've not given me a reason not to be nice." Why? What? I'm in a fucking interview. Why would I not be nice? And it's like, okay, so what do you want me to be in the workplace? Because if you had a midlife woman who knew what she wanted on the end of that phone call, on the interview, they'd probably go, "Oh, you're a bit too harsh," wouldn't they? So I just think you can't win.
One of the classics is that they say, "I don't think you're the right fit," which is euphemism, isn't it, for "you're an ancient old bag, get out."
Well, I used to ban that phrase when I used to work in media. I was like, you're not allowed to say that. You're not the right fit. What does it mean? Define it. Because usually what they'll then define is one of their biases. So I banned that, or I said, state your bias. So there you go.
Good on you.
Fighting for it. So what's the problem then with midlife women coming in? What feeds the bias? Are we a threat? Are we invisible? Are we too wise? Do the people think we're going to be a problem and can't learn fast enough? What are the biases?
All of those things.
Yeah.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what makes it so challenging, is that it's multiple biases layered on top of each other.
But because you speak about AI, don't you, Jacquie, so again, at this World of Learning event, there was a guy called Tim did this talk, and he was like, people fall into different camps of AI. Either the camp of you're using it, but you won't admit to using it, because you're trying to keep it as a secret of this is helping me think, or you're in the camp of I'm using it but don't know what I'm doing with it, or I don't use it, I'm scared of it. Whereas you said for midlife, what was your friend?
Well, they fall into two camps. 50% of the cohort that attend our programs, they like the idea of AI, but they're terrified of it, and 50% of it are terrified of it and don't like it and don't want to know anything about it.
Yeah.
So, but my point, what I said at the event is that, midlife women are not prehistoric dinosaurs that don't learn new shit quickly. I mean, I did say that when I started off my media career, there was no computer in our department. No. There was no computer in the department. And can I just say that I was the first person that went to my boss and said, I want laptops for all of the team so that we could go out when we did our statistics every 6 months to show, what the circulation was of our magazines, that we could do it with a laptop rather than a carousel and slides. And I demonstrated that within 6 months we would make our money back, and my boss signed it off straight away. So we were the first, and it was me that did it, you know. And my point about this is not to say I'm wonderful, but my point is that don't think that we can't pivot and learn new shit, because we absolutely can. Yeah. And I've got something which is called a mobile phone, and I can use it quite cleverly, as well as my kids who are in their 20s. So I'm not, backwards when coming forwards to learning new stuff.
And this is it. I think we've come through the digital age, haven't we? And so we do know how to use tech. And the Gen Zs of today, they're having their own challenges. It's not with tech. They are of the digital age. They get it. Just not to say they're not scared of AI. But one thing I'm aware of with the Gen Z is that they're in what we call like this polycrisis of their brains are so full of stress and threat and what's the future about? Where am I going? What's the point in saving? What's the point of doing it? It's like that nowism because what is the future? It's the the global warming might kill the world by the time, or Donald Trump will. So by the time they're living their future, so there is a bit there around. What I took out of the panel event when you spoke about, say the word again,
interage.
That's the easy one. So interage, in that event that Timon spoke about, he went, get a reverse mentor. So get someone who's of that Gen Z and reverse mentor each other so that we can express, listen, we've got all this wisdom and we know how to navigate all this tech and how to learn stuff. And we probably actually know how to learn and can help them because their brains are so full of threat and stress that they can probably learn some resilience and wisdom off us.
I think what's crucial about that, and something that I pointed out, is that midlife women learn differently.
Yes.
We learn differently. So the AI sessions and the workshops that we run, we have a 27-year-old bloke who's got a PhD and is an entrepreneur in his own AI business. And when we approached him, he was super keen. Then he was utterly terrified because he's going to have, tons of midlife women eyeballs on him during the session. And I did say to him, you are going to learn how to train us because we do not train and learn in the same way that your generation do.
Yeah.
And so it falls back on what you've actually said there, Lisa, is that the learning that we learn from each other is of benefit to each other. It is not lopsided and one-sided. It's not just give and the other person is just taking. Mm-hmm. There is absolutely a win-win in terms of the learning that benefits both demographics, which I think is of value to business as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I would say that I think that's one of the things that businesses can do is encourage interage learning and development and collaboration, because that's what's going to unlock the bias. That's what's going to make those interview situations, instead of being uncomfortable, feel natural. Mm-hmm. So I think, we need to think about how can each generation learn from each other? How can they work alongside each other? And that diversity of thought will have a commercial benefit, but it'll also work, intrinsically on a day-to-day basis to hopefully, eradicate bias as well.
Yeah, because didn't you say one of the woman's experiences was it in your section where they said that they went online onto the interview and the interviewer who was younger turned their screen off?
Yes.
What? Why?
Well, I mean, just reflect upon that and just visualize that in your head. You've done the program. You're fire in your belly. You're so motivated. You've been picked up and gently carried on this journey to identify just how amazing you are. You get an interview, you're on Zoom or Teams, and the interviewer is interviewing you, they see who you are, and then they turn their camera off. And they conduct the whole interview. So this midlife woman is speaking to a blank screen. And, I did say in the meeting that I'd have just told them to fuck off and then switch off. And I'm gobsmacked that actually happens, but that really gives a visual imagery of the battles that these women have.
Yeah, it is. And I love the phrase that you use, which is...
What, the fuck off phrase?
Yeah, that. I use that a lot since I got into my fuck it 40s. We walked in your shoes, but you've not walked in ours.
Yeah, I say we've been in your shoes. You have not been in ours. And what we mean by that is that, it's sad that in this day and age, we are carving a path so that the young women, and it's something that we really feel strongly about, is that we're not just doing it for ourselves. We're truly not doing it for ourselves. We're carving this path so that when you get to walk our shoes, that pathway you will be able to glide down rather than have to carve it out for yourself. So do understand that we're not selfishly motivated by trying to kickstart our second careers. We're doing this so that the pressures that you currently have about getting your career sorted before you go on mat leave, should you want to have kids, is a priority. The pressure points in your life can hopefully be evened out because we have given that hard work so that you don't have to. And that's a really, really important point that I want to get across.
And what I love about what you two are both doing is I'm aware of businesses like the Career Shredder, Pregnant Then Screwed, like part of the same campaign, aren't they, where that's what happens. You go off, you have your babies, and it's really difficult to get back into the workforce. What's the solution there? But what I like about what you two are doing is you're working with both the people and the businesses on this is the solution. It's not that hard.
No.
Get involved. Yeah.
Back when I was here in October, that was one of the key parts of the presentation, was to show practical solutions for individuals and businesses of what we can do about to fight age bias. And you're right, it isn't difficult. There's some pinch points. These are at recruitment, when you're making redundancies, and when you're trying to reinvent your business. And there's things that you can do as an individual. Chiefly as an individual, I would say tell your own story. Lean into reskilling yourself and being strong and positive on your values, and that will get you through whatever career path it is that you decide, whether that's staying within a salaried role or creating your own business, or maybe doing a mix of the two and pivoting into a new industry. And then as businesses, I think, you've got to train your people who are interviewing people so that there's not bias happening at recruitment stages. When it's redundancy, you've got to rethink long term, why is it all the midlife women that are being made redundant? Is that the right choice? And it's not from a long-term perspective, because you're losing all that wisdom experience. So how can you hold on to that talent in unconventional ways? Different types of contracts, different types of relationships. So there's lots of advice there.
I'm going to share a positive and a negative story just to kind of bring all this to life. So one negative I'm aware of working in a HR team, I can't really reveal it, but the first thing the manager said was, when they were doing a huge restructure, was let's get rid of all the people on maternity leave and all the part-time people. Now it's illegal, you're not allowed to do that. So he was clearly told, no. HR said, no, that's not happening because you're not allowed, it's illegal. But the fact that was even stated as here's a great plan to save money was bang out of order. But on a positive note, my partner works in tech, and he created this framework of how we recruit inclusively. And it's amazing what he's done. And they did the framework and they interviewed someone, and this person came in and they were like, we really like them, but they're not hitting. They didn't score on all the areas as they should have. But they were all like, but we really like him. And Tom was like, but if we're going to adopt this framework, we've got to stick to it to keep it unbiased and clear. And are they hitting just the skills? It was just the skill actually they were scoring on. Are the skills right? And I was like, good for you that you're sticking by that and not just hiring just on those biased feelings, and actually on an inclusive way of recruiting.
That's refreshing.
It is, yeah. And I'm like, good. And that's a middle-aged white man doing that. So I was like, good. But yeah, I'm in his ear all the time, aren't I? So that's helpful. Have we got any other examples of bias there where give me any other horror stories, or is there anything else refreshing that we're hearing that's working? Because you had loads of people on your end of your presentation kind of going, this programme was phenomenal.
Well, I mean, obviously it's hugely rewarding and humbling do what we do, because we're changing these women's lives. And I think that one of the benefits that these women have is the community that we've created. So our program is run on a platform, and we've got 2,000 midlife women on that platform. And that whole sisterhood thing is of real value, because it still shocks me that when these women register to attend our program, we ask them how they feel in terms of their position, trying to start, getting back into the workplace. And undoubtedly, all the adjectives they use are 100% negative, and they feel isolated and alone. And it's that thing that they have felt it's just happening to them, which I just find heartbreaking, really, and also shocking at the same time, that they're so kind of internalising their situations. So what we do at the end of the programme, even if these women do not get jobs immediately or jobs within WPP, we've given them hope. And I think that's such a great intangible gift that they get from it. And it's, as I said, it's deeply humbling what we do, but that just gives them the attitude shift that they're going to still keep fighting. And sadly, the fight is the right word to use. And I think the sad stories that Anna and I have both witnessed, they're not going to go away. But we hope that the more training of hiring managers and talent managers and CPOs, chief people officers, and just generally people in business to understand that We're not suggesting that you get rid of all the youngsters and bring all the old farts in. But what we are suggesting is that if you have a blend of everything, then logic will dictate that it makes good commercial sense, because the world that we live in, you don't just stick to your own age demographic in life, do you? Society puts us all together, and so therefore we all collectively benefit from it.
Yeah, and to build on that point, I think in terms of an optimistic lens, I would also echo what Jacquie said about community, because I think one of the things that I've found since I set up my business 4 years ago is that there's loads of midlife women successfully running their own businesses. And I think it's almost a bit of a surprise when you get to that point. You're like, where have they gone? And I know where they are because I'm part of that community, and it is too hidden. Like, we need to be celebrating how entrepreneurial and brilliant midlife women are, running all sorts of different businesses.
You've got 3 sitting here.
True.
Exactly.
And on the panel, because like Sue Benson was on the panel, and she was like, I make it a conscious effort to play both sides. She's been a woman, a midlife woman, and to be fair, she was running her own business at that point, wasn't she? But she's very conscious of making sure those in her business feel they can rise and, be looked after in that way. What is the bottom line here? What's the bottom line for businesses? What's the problem? What do they need to pay attention to? We've kind of talked about some of the solutions, but
I think it's recognising that midlife women do bring commercial value to organisations. And the problem is the massive absence. I mean, the IPA stats just were really clear that we're not
shocking,
that we're not present in businesses. So
and also it's been proven that women's strengths and traits are actually better for that upper management, that C-suite.
It is, and I think that the reality is if business does nothing, then they're going to really, the shit's going to hit the fan, because you've got fewer people coming in to the workplace because the population is lower. So therefore, what are you going to do? You're going to throw more money at them to entice the youngsters. Actually, what's going to happen is that it's going to flip right the way around again, and they're going to go, let's get the old people because they're cheaper than the young people coming in, because there are more of them to choose from. And actually, what you need to have is a blend of both. But businesses doing nothing and repetitively doing what they've been currently doing is just daft, and it doesn't make good commercial sense.
Yeah, I mean, the big point that I made back in October was, when you don't have midlife women in your organisation, teams lose the confidence to push back with clients.
Yeah, that was a really good point about your young coaching young people. I mean, it's a really, really good point that you made there.
And with each other, we have to challenge each other. We're a creative industry. Like, if everyone's in the room agreeing because you're all the same demographic, then you're not going to get the best work.
And what are the clients how are they going to react to that as well? Because they're going to be, as you said, if the youngsters don't know the art of, pushing back, then the clients are going to walk all over them. So there is a sophistication there that comes with experience.
Yeah.
I can genuinely think of an example now of a woman that I worked with. She was one of the sales account managers. She was a senior sales account manager, and one of the producers came in and said, we can't do this campaign or something. It was in radio. And she just went to town. She was like, here's all the reasons why we can. Here's all the reasons why you are a blocker and what, blah, blah, blah. And she went absolutely to town publicly. And I was like, oh my God, straight on email, I want to be like you when I grow up. I was like, that was phenomenal, because she was just articulated it perfectly. I was like, that set, you bang on, that set for me, because I was young in my like, I wasn't even that young, I was like 25 or something in that role, going, yeah, fair play, like that's how you handle that situation. And I can honestly say everyone I looked to guide me, because I was quite a reactive, emotional, younger, creative, and I needed that guidance, and it was off the women, the strong female support network that I had on how to navigate difficult conversations, because it was a male-dominated industry. I was working with male account managers, male managers all the time, who just wanted the world off all the women, and I'm like, it doesn't work like that.
Well, so. I think one of the things that I found, somebody came up to me last year and said that they've been proactively recruiting midlife women into their department, because what they realise is that they just bring the level of panic right the way down.
Yes.
You've got the younger generations that are running around like headless chickens, and the midlife are going, bring it on. Yeah. Whatever shit you're going to throw at us. We've already, worn the T-shirt. It's worn out. We've seen the film. We've read the book. And you know what? We've survived. The one thing that comes with experience, and AI does not have, is resilience. We've got humanity and resilience. It's something that we can just go, don't worry. Everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
That client is just another human being. They're being unasked, but we're going to cut through and it's going to be fine in the end.
Yeah. Well, AI wants to please us. It's always asking for the next thing to do.
I quite like that, though.
But I mean, sometimes you have to prompt it quite severely to get it to critique.
Sure. Yeah, you do.
And I think that's what midlife women bring
We're very good at that.
in organisations, but also that's how I use AI tools is asking it to critique things rather than just assuming it's right.
But I also think too that what we do bring is empathy and a big ear, and a big heart. And I think that these are things that certain people in senior positions just think is not of value, and actually it's of huge value.
Yeah, humanity and AI alongside each other, that's a powerful combination.
I think so.
Yeah.
I went to a Queens of Tomorrow event back earlier this year, and it was the two women, I can't remember their names. One was like the vice president of Paramount, and one was like a a VP as well of Snap Inc., Snapchat. And like them two, they were both just mank, northern, dead sound, dead life. And they were just like, that was their word. They were like, empathy. Like, we just listen, we just get it, we just understand, we're normal. And I was just like, that is it. You've just summed up. Like, that is why you need those women who are in crazy panic, like deadline, across the world, different time frames, trying to deal with TV, all that stuff. And they were just like cool as a cucumber. But it makes me think of that Reese Witherspoon Instagram video. Have you seen it? Where she's like, she hates it when she gets the script. And in the script, it always says, oh, what are we going to do?
Yes.
Like the women are like, what do we... And she's like, have you ever known a woman to not know what to do in any crisis?
Very true.
We know exactly what to do. So it's true. So the main takeaway from this is, stop. We don't want to be asking, like you say, you're Oliver Twist. We're not begging for jobs, please. We are integral to your organisation, and we're going to bring the energy and bring the level to where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
To perform. Any parting thoughts of the day then to kind of summarise? I think we've done a nice recap of that day, but that room, I just want to say, it's phenomenal when you get people like that in a room. They've gone to listen to a subject matter that's important for them in their future. The energy in the rooms like that are like electric. It's like you can just tell all the women are like, I'm part of a network here. I'm part of like something amazing. What are your thoughts in terms of rooms like that, women in this community?
I think it's about moving from conversation to action, which is why I focused on that specifically in my presentation. And I think allyship is a key part of driving action. We need to call things out. We need to drive change within the organisations that we're in, so that we're actively tackling bias.
And do you know what, actually, twice or maybe even three times, the women who were talking went, oh, hang on, I forgot what I was saying. It's perimenopause moment. And everyone just went, laughed, prompted, moved on. And it was just like dead accepted, dead normal. Why can't it be like that in the boardroom, that women go, oh, so it's perimenopause moment, forgot what I was saying. Oh, here we go. It just doesn't happen because they're just petrified of going, oh, God, I'm going to look incompetent because my hormones are up the wall.
I do think there is a shift change. I mean, certainly WPP have got menopause accreditation so that they do absolutely lean into that and give a whole support structure and network for the women so that they do feel that they can be open about that. Yeah. But I think that what I loved about the energy in that room is that the age breakdown was great because there was lots of young women and men there, and I think that's. I just wanted to get across that don't think that this is irrelevant to you because it absolutely is. Yeah. And I mean, my kind of, mic moment is that we need to get to a place where everyone feels that they can retire in dignity and not poverty. And if you don't make the change now, then you're just going to be in the same shitstorm that we are currently. Yeah. So it was great to see young women energised and actually sitting up and taking notes about what we were saying.
Yeah, 100%. Amazing. Well, listen, a massive thank you for joining me today, Anna and Jacquie. Really appreciate you being here. To learn more about our guests, so Jacquie Duckworth, her company is Visible Star. It's about a returners program led by midlife women for midlife women. It's sponsored by WPP, and you run programs, don't you, to help women get back into work. And there's plenty, as we've just heard, of women that are kind of in the front of the queue for redundancy. So lots of work there, which we want to kind of get rid of. But in terms of finding out more about Jacquie, I'm going to put her links in the kind of description of this podcast. Anna, you're Anna Sampson Consulting. You work with businesses on insight and marketing, thought leadership, organisational change. In fact, you do a huge amount of things, but your focus is about keeping the experience and wisdom in the workplace, isn't it?
For this piece of work, it was, yeah. And lots of other interesting organisational change topics. I'm keen on driving change on all issues that are going to drive better practices in businesses.
Amazing. Again, I'll put Anna's links in this podcast, in the description of this podcast. Thanks to our sponsor, CTAG, who help you win your audience by tapping into their interests, emotions, and intentions. Their support means we can bring you content like this to help you live empowered personal and professional lives. If you like what you're listening to, share with a friend, because everyone deserves to bloom.